Victoria Alonso, the mantle strategist over at Marvel, the mantle maven, if you will, she made a big mess over there for years and years. Now she's gone, and it seems like she's making a mess on the way out. Ooh, Disney is having a bad week. She just took Mickey's nose and rubbed it in his own. Well, you get the idea. Let's talk about Victoria Alonso and just what a number she pulled on Disney. Disney has reached a multi-million-dollar settlement with fired VFX head Victoria Alonso. Oh my gosh, a multi-million-dollar settlement. We're going to talk about why this is such a big deal. This is coming from The Verge. They'll be citing Deadline, and but I wanted to cover it this way because they have a little bit more information and clarify a few things in terms of the dollar amounts here. So amazing, though. If you recall, Victoria Alonso, of course, is the woman who had determined that you could simply move the various superpowers and abilities from characters, put them onto more modern, quote-unquote, demographics, and that was the mantle strategy. She also appears to have been terrible at her job when it came to CGI and animation. MODOK, for example, just looked horrendous. Quantumania as a whole looked really bad. We have some really concerning stuff coming out of the animation side of Marvel. And so she was let go, but she was let go under some interesting reasons, let's say, not necessarily the reasons that I just provided. Those reasons would have required Disney to actually provide some legal justification for moving her job, and they chose to go with something else. Doesn't seem to have gone so well. We're going to talk about it. Before we do, folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms when you click it. We're talking about that notification bell. Here is how this goes. This article from Charles Pulliam Moore. After initially accusing Alonso of sharing a narrative misrepresenting why she was fired, the entertainment giant is now settling with her to avoid a court case. Note as well that this court case would have come from the exact same law firm representing Miss Victoria Alonso as is representing Karen McCarthy, she suing Lucasfilm. And therefore, had this one gone to court, this one singular law firm, this one big behemoth over there in California, this is a huge Hollywood law firm, but they would have had access through discovery to information that is very closely held at Disney, very private in terms of both Marvel and Lucasfilm. Can you say chaos had Disney allowed this to go to court? So let's talk about this, and as we do, by the end of the video, I promise I'm going to show you how this is even worse than what it appears. It is worse. When Disney suddenly fired Marvel Studios' former VFX and post-production head Victoria Alonso earlier this year, it was widely reported that the decision came down as a result of her violating company policy by working on and promoting another studio's film without permission. It was also suggested that the middling response to some of Marvel's recent VFX-heavy spectacles Alonso oversaw, like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, might have played a role in her dismissal. But in the latest turn of events, rather than letting a legal battle play out publicly in court, Marvel has agreed to settle with Alonso. Note here, folks, what I'm telling you is more, I think, important. It's not necessarily that the visuals of it, which would have been bad, especially given what Disney is all about now, right? They'd be taking on a lady who identifies as LGBTQ+. They'd be taking her on, and she is Latina, or should we say it? Latin X. By the way, I hate that. I speak Spanish, and I hate that terminology. But anyway, Latina. So those optics for Disney, for what they now believe themselves to be, would have been just horrendous. While the specific details of Disney's settlement with Alonso haven't been made public, here it comes. Deadline reports it as being a multi-million-dollar amount. Now, we have no idea where that lands. Is it $2 million? Is it $10 million? Is it more than that? We don't know. We don't know. And one thing that you've got to consider as we read this article and talk about this news is, how much was it worth to Disney to get rid of this woman? How much was it worth? And give Disney a little credit. I mean, this is really bad for them, but give them a little credit. By doing it the way they did it, yes, they had to come to a settlement, but they did keep out the dirty laundry that they have. They kept out their Marvel dirty laundry out of the news for the most part, right? This didn't get to Discovery, and they didn't have to fire her in a way that would have led to them having to justify it by using poor performance, which would have then outed them as having been on a downward track for Marvel. So if you were choosing the worst ways that you could wind up as Disney, this is not the worst, but it's definitely not the best either. You'd like to have some sort of ironclad reason to get rid of her and not have to come to a multi-million-dollar settlement. But she's probably, if she had stayed at Disney, she's probably worse in terms of losses than multi-millions. She's probably, her impact was having maybe tens, 20s, hundreds of millions of dollars in impact. If you look at Quantumania, how much did it lose? So maybe Disney says, well, we'll take a multi-million-dollar hit to get rid of this woman and keep our dirty laundry out of the public for the most part. While the specific details of Disney's settlement with Alonso haven't been made public, Deadline reports it at multi-million. We just said that. Neither Disney nor Alonso's legal representation has made statements about the settlement itself, probably because that's part of the settlement, we would assume. But in the weeks leading up to the agreement, both sides were vocal about what they believed led to Alonso's dismissal. Reports alleged that Alonso's work as a producer on director Santiago Mitre's film Argentina 1985, an Amazon Studios film, and her decision to promote the Oscar-nominated project throughout the 2022-2023 award season were ultimately what led to her being canned. Now, let's also say here that one of the sticky things about this, sticky and tricky, is that not only was she promoting a film that she had made with another studio, and not only does that seem to contradict what Disney had told her to do, but likewise, there's a very messy situation where her mother, in fact, based on research that we've done, based on what Jonas J. Campbell was able to find out from thatparkplace.com, Jonas was able to pull some information that suggests that her mother, we believe, worked in a totalitarian government in Argentina as an education official high up in the government. And so then you have Victoria Alonso coming out and making a film about dictatorial Argentina in the 1980s when her mother was working in the education department, and it just gets very weird. We won't go into it much more than that, just to say this gets weird, and it may have given Disney some real concern, even though Disney is often on the wrong end of things.
Make sure to catch The Pro Show Thursdays 5 to 7 Eastern Time. Entertainment Explained, The Culture Curve Conquered, live with Pro and all his friends.
All right, let's get into this. Alonso's legal reps from Glacier, Will, Fink, Howard, Avchin, and Shapiro pushed back on the idea that Victoria was fired over a handful of press interviews and insisted that their client, a gay Latina who had the courage to criticize Disney, was silenced. So you can see how that was going to play out in the press and in the public. Oh my gosh, it would have been awful. Then she was terminated when she refused to do something she believed was reprehensible, Alonso's lawyer said at the time. Disney and Marvel made a really poor decision that will have serious consequences. Well, they're right in terms of the consequences. Disney didn't want to have to deal with it. According to the Hollywood Reporter, the reprehensible something Alonso refused to do was to censor references to Pride in Quantumania, those being little icons that were next to door fronts, apparently, in order to appease movie distributors in Kuwait, where certain things are outlawed. And so, yes, but she was also a huge part of the push against Bob Chapek. And maybe she thought by doing that she was going to earn some cachet with Robert Iger when he came in, but apparently not enough. Turns out that if you're involved in doing things that are costing the company huge sums of money, that nobody is safe then. Now, I want to also take a look at this from Pirates and Princesses, my old stomping ground. This is by Cambria Pratt. You may know her as Geeky Sparkles. Victoria Alonso's lawyer issues statement on termination, claims Disney silenced her. This is back from March 25th, and I want you to look at just how much things have changed in the time since. So here is the full statement that her attorney had released back then. Of course, the idea that Victoria was fired over a handful of press interviews, blah, blah, blah. We've already done that one. But let's look and see what Disney was saying before they decided they were going to pay out multi-million dollars. Again, multi-million dollars, okay? Here's what Disney said. It's unfortunate that Victoria is sharing a narrative that leaves out several key factors concerning her departure, including an indisputable breach of contract and a direct violation of company policy. We will continue to wish her the best for the future and thank her for her numerous contributions to the studio. Now, that's really interesting, isn't it? Because now that we have in less than 1 month, we have gone from indisputable and we have gone from direct violation to, you know what, maybe we'll just pay you multi-millions of dollars to get you to go away and not mess with us anymore. I'm telling you right now, Victoria Alonso, as much as we probably don't like her on on the channel, as much as she has really screwed things up as Marvel, and as much as she decided to focus on trying to grow demographics around Marvel that probably just aren't going to be interested in Marvel very much, it's hard to escape the fact that she and this law firm, and again, broader picture here, we'll talk about in a minute, but she and this law firm, they took Disney to task. They took Mickey Mouse and they rubbed his nose in the litter box. And now he's got a stink that the cats know when they're onto him. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, this law firm is representing Karen McCarthy, and that potentially is even bigger. Isn't that amazing? The Karen McCarthy situation is actually potentially even bigger than the Victoria Alonso situation. Karen McCarthy says that she was basically hired to go work on The Acolyte, that being the next Star Wars Disney Plus series coming out in the next year. And so she's supposed to be working on that. She was going to be the highest paid executive at Apple in terms of female entertainment executives. And instead, she goes to Lucasfilm, and then Lucasfilm pulls the rug out from under her, she says, after there were financial obligations already in place. And she's now with this exact same law firm. This has turned into a giant kerfuffle. And full disclosure, we have to do this whenever we receive any kind of benefits, financial or quid pro quo, or if we're involved in any kind of endeavors that might bias us. We're always very careful to disclose those fully. We do need to disclose that the investigative reporter for thatparkplace.com, where I'm a writer and editor, Jonas J. Campbell, he has actually provided information to the attorney who is representing Karen McCarthy, and that's an ongoing process. He may be providing more information. We can't disclose what that is, but just full disclosure there. And we don't like to be part of the news. We try not to be, and so that's the limit to it. We're trying also not to be biased, but we want to be as have as much integrity journalistically as we possibly can. So put that out there. Now, the big deal is, though, that this is a win for that law firm. Now they're with Karen McCarthy going after Disney in what could be even more substantial. And you say, well, Pro, why would it be more substantial? Victoria Alonso is like one of the top execs at Disney. Yes, but remember, Karen McCarthy was about to be the biggest, the most highly paid female entertainment executive at Apple. We're talking huge. And she's making these allegations at Disney. And now what is Disney going to do? Are they going to fold again in front of this firm? Possibly. Now, when I say that Disney is having an awful, terrible, no good time with this, I want to put this in context so you all understand just how bad it is. And again, no fan of Victoria Alonso here. I'm sure she's a wonderful person in some ways. I'm sure she's kind at times to others. But in terms of her marketing strategy, in terms of the financials that she put Marvel into, they're just abysmal. I mean, they're just terrible. But put this in context, and I think this is powerful. And perhaps it's more than powerful. Perhaps it's pre-planned by the firm and by Alonso. Don't know that, but perhaps it seems to me to be more than coincidental. This article out of Fast Company is talking about these layoffs that are happening. This article from yesterday, in the morning, of course, but going over these job layoffs, these job cuts that are happening, cascading throughout the company of the Walt Disney Company, and right now in the process of eliminating 7,000 jobs. That's only the rounds of job cuts that we've heard about for prior to summer. We don't know if they're going to continue cutting jobs, but my premonition and my thought is probably so. But for now, it's 7,000 jobs. But as we read this article, keep this in context. At the same time that Disney is cutting jobs like crazy, they're now having to pay out multi-million-dollar settlements. One settlement that we know of for sure goes to Victoria Alonso, and it's already multi-million dollars. Now, here's the thing about that. How many jobs would that pay for if they didn't have to make that settlement? How many jobs can you have with however many millions of dollars are going out to scorned executives who claim that they have been treated poorly? Victoria Alonso clearly found some reason that Disney didn't want to go to court, crossing those T's and dotting those I's. Maybe they messed up like they did in Florida. Who knows? But whatever the case may be, and for those of you, I love this too. For those of you out there who are the high dosage pixie dusters who think, oh, well, Disney's legal team just can't be defeated. Yeah, think again. What did we just see? You don't pay out multi-million dollars, reverse your statement completely in less than a month, unless you really have got some buffoonery going on. So anyway, but keep this in context as we go through it. ESPN layoffs, this is from Fast Company. ESPN layoffs, Disney's second round of job cuts will include some on-air talent. This we'll talk about ESPN by Michael Grothaus. I've got a reason for reading this. We'll talk about it in just a second. It's not just tech companies that are facing mass layoffs. Earlier this year, entertainment giant the Walt Disney Company announced it would cut 7,000 jobs in a phased layoff comprising 3 rounds. Again, folks, remember, I've heard that's not the end of it, but that's speculation and rumor. As CNBC reports, next week we'll see the second phase of those layoffs begin, and it will include job cuts at Disney-owned sports giant ESPN. In March, the first round of Disney job cuts was initiated by the company, and those cuts impacted its Metaverse Strategies unit and the company's Beijing office. The second round of job cuts next week will hit ESPN, and as Bloomberg notes, they will also hit about 15% of Disney's entertainment division staff. They will impact employees who work in television, film, and theme parks. As for the ESPN cut specifically, it's not clear how many jobs will go at the sports broadcaster. However, CNBC says that the cuts will include management and some on-air talent. According to people who are familiar with the matter, in a memo obtained by CNBC last month, CEO Bob Iger noted that the April cuts will see several thousand staff reductions. Now, here's the key thing to take away from this article. This is not only going to hit ESPN, but it's going to hit on-air talent. Now, think about the optical black eye this is giving to the Mouse House. Not only are they paying out millions of dollars to someone who says that she was wrongly treated, however, they're at the same time cutting jobs. And oh, wait a minute, not only are they cutting jobs, at the same time, they're paying huge, vast sums of money to people that they've done wrongly, apparently, if the settlement has validity, and we assume that it does. But also, they're cutting people that are on air, and that means that it's hard to hide it. And that's the really bad thing. So Disney all around just getting beat up in this week, and it may not get better. As I said before, if this legal firm that's representing Karen McCarthy that just won with Victoria Alonso, if they can do the same thing, if they can pull off this coup de grace yet again, Disney is in for a very rough time. I think hard about if Disney were to treat people the right way and to put the right people in positions who would handle their intellectual properties well, then they wouldn't find themselves in these sort of spots. And then perhaps they wouldn't have to cut the kind of jobs that they're cutting of average, ordinary people, while people like Victoria Alonso with questionable connections to governments from decades ago walk away having devastated intellectual properties and yet still get to receive a golden parachute that was denied to them, yet no more, get to walk away with huge sums of money that, once again, folks, would pay for tons and tons of average, everyday people's jobs. How many workers at Disney World and Disneyland could be paid off of that vast amount of money just given to Victoria Alonso? I'm willing to bet that it's a bunch. And I'm willing to bet that as much as we dislike Victoria Alonso, she has completely won the day when it comes to Disney. I don't know where she'll land next. And I assume that wherever it is, they'll probably keep her away from VFX. But she might be a nice cudgel that they can use against Disney. She might be nice to put forth some documentaries and things that, well, would be damaging to Disney, perhaps. I mean, they can trot her out for some virtue signaling on these other companies, maybe some great documents and films, and who knows what she'll come up with. But whatever she does, she also had a book, a little biography that Disney had the rights to, and I bet she's taking that with her out the door. And I have a feeling there's going to be some gloating, once again, from these competitors who are watching Disney and saying, well, we're going to take Victoria. She's bringing her money that you gave her, and she's going to make some competitive media now that is going to virtue signal in the way that you seem to want to do, but now we're going to pull that away from you as well. All in all, no-win situations for Disney. Hopefully, this is yet another sign for them to return to a meritocracy, to return to a sensible center, and get back to making stuff that people enjoy and get away from sort of these celebrity and personality cult issues, away from ideologies, away from divisive content, and just make stuff that people love. Let's go back to Iron Man. Let's go back to Captain America. Let's go back to the X-Men, including Cyclops and Storm, Rogue and Gambit, all those fun things that we'd like to see, and get away from these visions of Victoria Alonso. Clearly, she doesn't like Disney, and maybe now Disney has been burned enough that they'll reconsider in the future hiring people like her. But for today, she wins the day. So does her law firm, and the law firm is not yet done. Folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms. When you click it, we're talking about that notification bell. Although if anybody wants to stick it to Disney, maybe they need to call Victoria and ask her how she did it. We covet your comments, so drop one down below. This is not just one guy talking out there, and often I have lots of guests on, but today it's flying solo. But that doesn't mean that I'm all alone. I've got all of you out there to give me your opinions, and I sure do respect and appreciate them. Please tell me what you think so that I can follow up with you and see what you're thinking. And don't forget also, folks, that if you are not yet a member of this channel, it's an option out there. There's exclusive content, there's all kinds of fun stuff, and we give you guys the ability to be behind the driver's wheel just a little bit, letting you pick topics, letting you send in questions that are used then to make videos. We want you to have a say in entertainment citizen journalism. And so if you would like to become a member for the price of a soda, you're welcome to hop on in, just hit that join button. Folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and I guess like Victoria Alonso for at least this day, keep having a whole lot of fun.
Floral, it's time for you to walk the plank.
What? Why?
Cuz you haven't subscribed to WDW Pro yet. Nor bookmark thatparkplace.com on your web browser to get great articles from great contributors.
What?